Today we're going to talk about fixing early arm bend in the pull. It's one of the more common problems for beginners, and it's also one of the harder problems to fix. And you can see here James demonstrating early arm bend. You'll notice that his arms are bending sometime when the bar is between his knee and his hip. And ideally you want the arms to stay straight until they get to the hip. But here he is in slow motion, and there you see the arms becoming quite bent before it ever reaches the hip. What that does, it keeps your hips from extending as powerfully as they could, and it really cuts down on the power of the pull. And as I said, this is a common problem, but it also sometimes tends to be very, very hard to fix. The first step in solving this problem is just to do some simple pulls with no arm bend during the pull. And you see James doing some snatch pulls here. He's going very slow and deliberately up his hip, and that sometimes is needed when you first start. When you get good at it, you can speed it up and use a little more natural cadence and still not bend the arm. But you notice at the top he's not bending his arm. And you'll notice that he is shrugging, or his shoulder girdle is rising. And most people that know me know that I don't necessarily coach people to forcefully shrug at the top. But in this situation, what he's doing is he's not really forcefully shrugging. He's just allowing his shoulder girdle to be loose and to rise based on the momentum that he's given the bar during the pull. So at the top, you have two or three choices. Either once you finish your extension, if you don't go into the bar, your shoulder girdle can rise like it does in a shrug. You can allow your arms to bend, which we don't want to do right now because that just exasperates the bad habit that we already have. Or you can let the bar travel out away from the body, which we also don't want to do because that's another bad habit. So just get used to doing some nice slow pulls. Pull as slowly and deliberately as you have to start. In the pull with straight arms and with the shoulder girdle rising a little bit to bleed off the momentum that you've generated during the pull, and just get used to going through the motion without bending your arms. Now, the second step in fixing this problem is to do a complex, where we first do the pull that we just did, and then we add to it the full lift. We're going to want to go from below the knee to start, and the reason is whenever you do a movement, there's always a trace of that movement left in your nervous system, but it doesn't last all that long. It always helps, if you want to reproduce the movement, it always helps to have as little time elapsed between the second movement and the first. So we only want to go to the below the knee to start, because then you don't have to lower the bar all the way back to the floor, get your grip, set up again, etc. The actual full movement takes place very quickly after the pull. So you do the pull like we've just learned to do without any arm movement, and then we go on to an actual snatch from below the knee, and hopefully we'll be able to keep our arms straight. Now the next step is to do the pulls followed by the lifts from the floor. And exactly the same as what we just did, except we're actually going to the floor between each rep. There will be a little longer between each rep because of that, but hopefully you've learned a little from the second step. You'll now be able to accomplish that. You see James here is going all the way down to the floor, regripping the bar, and then hitting a snatch without bending his arms early. And it really is, once you get that done, it's as simple as just going back and slowly starting to add the full lifts into your routine without the pull done first, and you should have solved the problem. Of course, it's not usually as easy as step 1, 2, 3 and the problem's over. From what I've seen, it's very normal to have to go back for quite some time to the steps with a pull before the full lift, both from the knee and from the floor, and work those into your routine a fair amount for sometimes a week, sometimes 3 weeks, sometimes for several months before the problem's all the way solved. However long it takes, you'll still be able to train. You'll still be able to train fairly heavy, get stronger, improve your lifting, and at the same time slowly get rid of that difficult to solve problem of early arm bend.